Welcome, gents. The loudest man in the room is often the weakest. Frank Lucas. In a world full of noise, performance, and desperate need for validation, the real Sigma male is becoming harder to find and easier to fake. You've seen it. Guys throwing around deep quotes, dressing the part, acting detached like it's some badge of honor. But here's the truth. Being a Sigma isn't about image. It's about substance. And most people trying to play the part don't even realize how far off they are. The real Sigma male isn't performing. He's not mysterious on purpose. He's just focused. He's not antisocial. He's selectively social. He's not trying to be liked. He's trying to stay aligned. And while the wannabes try to look impressive, the real ones are busy doing the hard, often invisible work that builds unshakable confidence, clarity, and self-respect. This video dives deep, not into the cliches, but into the subtle, often overlooked traits that actually define a real Sigma male. The stuff that doesn't show up in selfies or status updates. The kind of traits that make people stop and take notice. Not because you demanded attention, but because you walked in, owning yourself completely. If you've ever wondered where you stand, or if you're just tired of the fake and hungry for something real, this one's for you. Watch the video to the end. It's not about trying to become something you're not. It's about getting honest, sharpening what's already inside you, and walking the path like you mean it. Number 1. Freedom as oxygen. Real Sigmas structure their lives around autonomy. They will walk away from a high-paying job, a lover, or an opportunity if it costs their freedom. Wannabes talk big but are addicted to comfort. Let's dive into something that separates the real Sigma males from the ones just acting tough online: freedom. And I'm not talking about the kind of freedom people post about on Instagram, pretending they don't care while secretly craving likes and approval. I'm talking about real, deep, soul-level independence, the kind that shapes every choice a Sigma makes. For a real Sigma, freedom isn't a luxury, it's oxygen. It's not something he negotiates. It's not up for debate. If something threatens his autonomy, no matter how shiny it looks, he'll walk. That could be a job that pays 6 figures but demands his spirit. A relationship that comes with emotional chains. A group or ideology that wants him to think and move like everyone else. Sigmas don't stay where they feel trapped. Not because they're reckless, but because they know the price of peace and they're not afraid to pay it. That's where the difference kicks in. Wannabes love the idea of freedom. They say things like, "I don't need anyone," or "I do my own thing," but watch closely. They'll stay in soul-crushing situations because they fear discomfort more than they love their independence. They'll post about being lone wolves, but crumble when they don't get validation. The real Sigma doesn't announce his freedom, he lives it. He builds a life, day by day, that allows him to breathe on his own terms. And that might mean living with less, being misunderstood, or starting from scratch. But he'll take that any day over selling his time, energy, or mind just to fit in. If that hits home, don't just nod, lean in. Because this trait alone might be the clearest test of whether you're living like a true Sigma or just playing dress up. Ask yourself, what would you walk away from to truly breathe? Number 2, aesthetic apathy. Sigmas often dress sharply or not at all. Either way, it's deliberate and for themselves. Wannabes copy trends to be seen as cool. Let's talk about appearance, not in a shallow way, but in how it reflects mindset. A real Sigma male doesn't dress to impress others. He dresses to reflect who he is, not who he wants to be seen as. That's the key difference. Sometimes a Sigma walks in the room dressed sharp, clean, simple, confident. Other times he's in worn-out boots, a plain hoodie, or something completely unfashionable. Either way, it's intentional. It's not about attention. It's about comfort, identity, and function. There's no costume, no trend chasing, no performance. Sigmas don't care if what they wear is in. They care if it feels right for them. If they dress well, it's not to stand out. It's because they respect themselves. If they dress down, it's not laziness. It's because they've got bigger things to think about than matching colors and logos. Wannabes, on the other hand, often use clothes as a mask. They follow whatever's trending, not because they love it, but because they want to look like they belong. They're copying aesthetics from influencers, movie characters, or alpha personalities online. They confuse looking cool with being confident. Here's the thing, real confidence is quiet. It doesn't need designer labels or expensive watches. It shows up in how you carry yourself, not in what's on your feet. A Sigma's style, or lack of it, is just another way he stays in control. He chooses how he wants to be seen, if at all. That's the deeper layer of this aesthetic apathy. It's not that he doesn't care about how he looks, it's that he doesn't let it define him. So take a look in the mirror. Are you dressing for yourself or to impress people who don't even know you? Watch closely and start seeing style for what it really is, a reflection of self, not a cry for approval. Number 3, he's kind, not nice. There's a difference. Nice can be performative. Kind is genuine but has boundaries. Sigma men don't do polite self-betrayal just to be liked. This one cuts deep if you've ever felt drained from always trying to be the nice guy. Here's the truth. Being nice and being kind are not the same thing. And Sigma males, they know the difference, and they live it. Being nice is often about performance. It's smiling when you're uncomfortable, saying yes when you want to say no, and avoiding conflict even when something needs to be said. It's self-betrayal in a clean package. Society praises niceness because it's easy to control. It keeps people agreeable, predictable, and quiet. But Sigma males don't play that game. They're kind, but on their terms. Their kindness is rooted in respect, empathy, and strength. They'll help you if you need it, support you if it's real, and speak truth, even if it's uncomfortable. But they won't twist themselves into a people-pleasing shape just to avoid judgment. They won't put your comfort above their peace. That's what makes Sigma kindness powerful. It has boundaries. It's not about being liked, it's about being real. And when you operate from that space, people might not always like you, but they will respect you deeply. Wannabes often fake kindness to gain favor. They agree with everything. They apologize for existing. But underneath there's frustration and resentment because they're not being true to themselves. They're just hoping that being nice enough will earn them approval. A Sigma knows that's a dead end. He'd rather disappoint someone else than abandon himself. And that quiet self-respect, that's what makes his presence feel solid. So here's the question. Are you being nice to be liked or kind because it's who you are? Watch the video. Let this idea settle in. Because once you stop choosing politeness over your own truth, you stop shrinking and you start showing up as your real powerful self. Number 4, he walks away before disrespect becomes visible. He doesn't wait for someone to cross the line. He senses when they're inching toward it and exits quietly. This right here is one of the sharpest, most underrated traits of a real Sigma male. His ability to walk away before the storm even shows up, not out of fear, not out of weakness, but because his self-respect is tuned in like a radar. See, most people wait for something obvious to happen before they draw a line. Someone raises their voice, insults them, or blatantly crosses a boundary. But a Sigma, he doesn't need that much proof. He reads the energy. He pays attention to tone, body language, timing, and shifts in behavior that most people overlook. If something feels off, if he senses entitlement, passive aggression, or manipulation creeping in, he doesn't argue, beg, or make a scene. He just quietly removes himself. That's the difference. He knows that by the time disrespect becomes loud, it's already been brewing. And rather than wait around hoping it gets better, he trusts his instincts and protects his space. No drama, no grand exit. Just a calm, quiet goodbye. Wannabes, on the other hand, wait until the damage is done. They ignore the early signs because they crave connection or validation. They convince themselves it's not a big deal until it is. And then they explode or break down, wondering how they let it go so far. A Sigma never lets it go that far. His boundaries are invisible but firm. You won't always see them, but cross even close to them and he's gone. And that's what makes him powerful. He doesn't fight for respect. He walks where it's already present. So ask yourself, are you waiting to be disrespected before you act, or are you tuned in enough to walk early while your peace is still intact? This one trait alone could save you years of emotional chaos. Number 5, they are intellectual omnivores, constantly feeding on knowledge without flaunting it. Wannabes quote Nietzsche to look deep. Real ones digest complexity and apply it fluidly. Real Sigma males are intellectual omnivores. They don't just consume knowledge, they feast on it. And here's the key, they do it quietly. No flashy quotes, no name-dropping philosophers to sound wise. They absorb information from all angles, books, conversations, experiences, and process it like a sponge. But the difference is they don't need to prove that they're learning. Think about the Wannabes. They're always quoting Nietzsche, Kant, or some other philosopher, hoping that dropping a famous name will make them seem deep or intelligent. It's a show. It's performance. They're trying to validate their intellect through others' words, hoping people will think they're enlightened just because they can spout a few complex ideas. But real Sigmas don't need that validation. They take in the complexity of life, from the simplest conversation to the hardest philosophical theory, and digest it. They don't need to flaunt their knowledge, they live it. They understand the nuances, they connect the dots, and they apply what they've learned in ways that are practical, subtle, and impactful. This isn't about sounding smart, it's about being smart. The Sigma knows that true intellectual depth isn't in the ability to quote, it's in the ability to use what you know to navigate life with ease. You don't need to shout your intelligence from the rooftops. When you truly understand something, you can apply it fluidly without needing to explain it to everyone around you. Wannabes are always looking for the next thing to show off. But real Sigmas are too busy evolving. They don't need to flaunt their wisdom because in the end, it speaks for itself. So ask yourself, are you trying to sound deep or are you actually living in depth? True intellect isn't about being flashy, it's about being fluid and applied. And that's where the real power lies. Number 6, their confidence is anchored in capability, not affirmation. They trust what they can do, not what others say they are. Here's something that separates real Sigma males from the crowd. Their confidence doesn't come from compliments, followers, or someone telling them they're great. It comes from one place, what they know they can do. They don't wait for a pat on the back to feel worthy. They don't need applause to believe in themselves. Why? Because they've put in the work. They've tested themselves in silence, failed, learned, sharpened. They know what they bring to the table because they built the damn table. This is the kind of confidence that can't be shaken. It doesn't rise and fall based on whether someone approves. You can doubt them, ignore them, even mock them. It doesn't move them because your opinion, it's not their fuel. Their skills are, their results are, their experiences. And here's what makes it powerful, it's quiet. You won't catch a Sigma bragging or fishing for praise. He doesn't need to be told he's a high-value man or a boss. He's too busy actually being one. Wannabes, though, they live off affirmation. They need people to say they're confident just so they can feel confident. They chase validation in likes, labels, and looks, but inside it's shaky because they haven't built real capability, just a performance. A Sigma, he's not performing, he's executing. He knows what he can handle in a crisis. He knows what he can build when no one's watching. He's earned his self-trust, which makes it unshakable. So ask yourself, if no one ever complimented you again, would you still know your worth? And remember, real confidence doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be real. And that comes from doing the work, not waiting for permission. Number 7, authentic disconnection, not fake solitude. Sigmas don't isolate to look mysterious. They disconnect because most noise is irrelevant. Wannabes isolate hoping someone notices. Let's get one thing straight. There's a huge difference between being alone because you choose to be, and being alone because you want people to ask where you are. A real Sigma male disconnects not for attention, but for clarity. He's not ghosting the world to seem cool or mysterious. He just understands that most of what's happening around him is noise. Pointless gossip, fake competition, forced small talk, and people addicted to distraction. That's not his world. He checks out because that noise blocks his focus, his growth, and his peace. See, Sigmas value their time like oxygen. They don't need constant interaction to feel alive. In fact, their solitude is where they sharpen their edge, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. When a Sigma disappears for a bit, he's not lost. He's recalibrating, he's learning, building, thinking, planning. And when he comes back, he's sharper, calmer, and usually 10 steps ahead. Now flip the coin. Wannabes try to copy that same disconnection, but their motives are totally different. They pull back, hoping someone will ask, "Where have you been?" They confuse being unseen with being powerful. But in reality, they're just hiding, waiting for validation to pull them back in. The Sigma doesn't care who notices his absence. He's not playing hide and seek. He's building something the world won't understand until it's finished. That's the subtle but major difference. Sigmas disconnect to tune in to themselves, their goals, their real priorities. Wannabes disconnect to get noticed. So here's your gut check. Are you stepping away because you need silence to grow or because you're hoping someone will chase? If you've ever felt the urge to step back and focus, you're not crazy. You might just be wired like a real Sigma. Number 8. They observe 10x more than they speak. Social settings are data farms. They read rooms like intel agents. Ever been in a room where someone barely says a word but somehow knows everything that's going on? That's the Sigma male. While everyone else is trying to impress, entertain, or dominate the spotlight, he's sitting back, watching. Not because he's shy, but because he's gathering information. For a Sigma, every room is a data farm. Every conversation, gesture, glance, or shift in energy tells him something. He sees through the fake laughs, the quiet power plays, the people-pleasing masks. While others are reacting emotionally, he's decoding the social matrix, like a human lie detector with calm eyes. And the best part, you won't even know he's doing it. He doesn't interrupt, over-explain, or try to prove how smart he is. He speaks when he needs to, not when he's trying to fill space. And when he does speak, it lands, because it's backed by 10x more awareness than anyone else in the room. Meanwhile, Wannabes often do the opposite. They try to dominate the conversation. They overshare, overperform, and overstep, mistaking volume for power. But real strength isn't in the talking. It's in knowing when not to. Sigma men treat social settings like intel missions. Who's insecure but pretending they're confident? Who's manipulating with charm? Who's actually solid but quiet? He clocks it all without blinking. And that's what gives him an edge. He's not in the game to win attention. He's in it to understand the field. This is why people often underestimate the Sigma until it's too late. He's already 10 steps ahead, already made his judgments, and already decided who's worth his time. So next time you walk into a room, ask yourself, am I trying to be seen, or am I really seeing what's happening? Because once you start observing like a Sigma, you'll stop getting played and start mastering every room you enter. Number 9. Invisibility in the algorithm. Real Sigmas don't care for online attention or follower counts. They may be unknown to the world, but legends in their field. Wannabes live for viral moments. In today's world, where everyone's obsessed with being seen, liked, shared, and followed, a true Sigma male does something almost rebellious. He disappears from the noise. He's not posting every move, chasing views, or performing for the algorithm. In fact, he often thrives in the shadows, quietly becoming excellent while the world scrolls past. Sigmas know that real mastery doesn't require an audience. They don't need blue checks, trending reels, or 1 million likes to validate their worth. They're building empires behind the scenes. They could be running companies, mastering a skill, creating art, or impacting lives. And you'll never know because they don't announce it. They just do it. And here's the wild part. In their own circles, their industry, or their lane, they're legends, quiet giants. Not because they marketed themselves into stardom, but because they did the work, stayed focused, and let their results speak louder than any post ever could. Wannabes, on the other hand, live for the feed. Their self-worth rises and falls with engagement. They chase viral moments like gold, hoping fame will fill a void. But the algorithm doesn't care about depth. It rewards noise. And the more you chase it, the more you drift from authenticity. A real Sigma would rather be respected by 10 who truly understand his value than followed by 10,000 who only like a filtered version of him. He's not invisible because he lacks value. He's invisible because he doesn't waste time proving it to the wrong audience. So ask yourself, are you chasing attention or building legacy in silence? Being unseen doesn't mean you're irrelevant. Sometimes it means you're too focused to be distracted. That's Sigma energy. That's real. Number 10. They avoid popularity, not out of insecurity, but because it dilutes authenticity. They know the crowd waters down the signal. They'd rather have clarity than clout. Here's the thing about real Sigma males. They don't chase popularity, not because they're afraid of it, but because they understand it's a distraction from their authenticity. The world is obsessed with fame, followers, and clout, but a Sigma, he knows that the more people you try to please, the less true you stay to yourself. Popularity isn't the end goal for a Sigma. Authenticity is. When you're constantly worried about being liked, you're forced to dilute who you are to fit other people's expectations. You start playing a role, and what you really bring to the table gets buried under the weight of other people's needs. A Sigma doesn't care about fitting in or being part of the in crowd. He's more concerned with clarity, staying true to his own vision and purpose. He knows that the bigger the crowd, the more opinions, expectations, and noise he has to contend with. So instead of fighting for validation in a sea of faces, he takes the road less traveled, where his signal stays clear and uninterrupted. This isn't about insecurity, it's about knowing that when you have clarity, when you know exactly who you are and what you stand for, you don't need the crowd's approval. The louder the crowd, the more diluted your signal becomes. What a Sigma values is being understood by the right people, not admired by the masses. Wannabes, on the other hand, chase clout like it's the only thing that matters. They bend, shift, and shape themselves to gain attention, thinking popularity will fill some void. But the truth is, they're never fully seen, just admired for their performance. So ask yourself, are you compromising your authenticity to fit in, or are you staying true to your clarity, even if it means standing alone? It's not about numbers, it's about presence, and a real Sigma's presence is undeniable. Number 11. They rarely explain themselves because they know 90% of people won't get it anyway. Wannabes overshare to prove depth. Real Sigmas keep it encrypted unless decoded by a worthy mind. Here's one of the most powerful traits of a real Sigma male. He doesn't feel the need to explain himself, because he knows most people won't truly understand anyway. You could spill your whole soul out, and it would still be lost on most. So, why bother? Sigma males speak in layers. They carry their thoughts, values, and experiences like encrypted messages. Only those who have the depth to read between the lines can decode them. If you can't understand their silence, their subtlety, or the way they carry themselves, that's not their problem, it's yours. They don't overshare their personal philosophies or deep insights to prove they're insightful or unique. That's for the wannabes, who are constantly trying to convince the world that they're complex, deep, or multidimensional. They throw every thought, every aha moment out there, hoping someone will catch on and validate them. But real depth doesn't need constant validation. Sigmas don't need applause or praise. They keep their thoughts, their strategies, their true intentions under wraps until someone is worthy of them. And the irony is, it's the people who truly listen, who understand the unspoken, who see the nuance in their actions, that get the privilege of knowing them on a deeper level. A Sigma doesn't walk around trying to show off how deep or complex he is, because his complexity isn't a performance. It's a subtle language reserved for those who have earned the right to understand. Wannabes? They wear their supposed depth like a badge, hoping it impresses others. So ask yourself, do you feel the need to explain yourself to be understood, or do you trust that the right people will get you without all the noise? Stop explaining, start embodying. Because true depth doesn't shout for attention, it waits for the right mind to notice. And that's when it strikes. Conclusion: subtle traits that separate real Sigma males from wannabes. At the end of the day, what separates real Sigma males from the imitators isn't how they dress, talk, or act on the surface. It's what's quietly driving them underneath. It's their clarity, their refusal to play by trends, and their loyalty to truth, even when it hurts. Real Sigmas don't need noise to prove their value. Their silence carries more weight than most people's shouting. They're not out here chasing applause. They're building something solid, something that doesn't vanish when the spotlight moves on. Wannabes try to wear the image like a costume. They want the edge, the mystery, the respect, but without doing the deep, uncomfortable work that builds it. They memorize the look, but skip the soul. And the truth is, you can't fake what you haven't faced. The Sigma path requires honesty, endurance, patience, and a level of self-awareness that doesn't let you off the hook. But here's the encouragement. If you're reading this, and something inside you resonates, not with the image, but with the mindset, then you're not behind. You're just early. Keep going. Keep stripping away what's fake and keep sharpening what's real. You don't need the crowd to validate your journey. You need discipline, direction, and the courage to walk alone when it's necessary. That's where the real Sigma lives. Not in the image, but in the intention. Stay sharp. Stay true. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more substance. And that's your lane. Own it. Thank you for watching, gents, and God bless you.